All right, guys. So I think we'll start the webinar now. So first of all, just want to say thank you all so much for coming along today for our introduction to the 3D Repo platform. My name's Jack Williams, and I'm one of the senior account managers here at 3D Repo. I'm also accompanied by Bogdan Davidov, who's our customer success manager. So basically, what we're going to go through today is that I'm going to run through a presentation and just sort of give you the more sort of high-level overview of what 3D Repo does, which will give you a good understanding of our platform. And then I'll pass it over to Bogdan, where we'll go through a bit of a general demonstration of the platform, running through the various features and workflows that 3D Repo offers. And then following on from that, we'll have a Q&A session. So just a bit of housekeeping. If you guys do have questions, please do just ask them, and you'll see them in the GoToWebinar panel box. And we'll get through those at the end of the webinar. So we're hoping for this to run for roughly 45 minutes to an hour. And yeah, get the questions coming in, because it'll be good to get a bit of a discussion going. But within saying that, I'll crack into the slides and we'll begin. So first of all, 3D Repo, what we are at the core of our product is that we're a digital platform for BIM data, right? So what that means is that you can access your 3D and 4D models all through your web browser. But it's good to have an understanding of our founding principles of the platform. So one of our first beliefs is that BIM software is too complex, right? Why should it just be restricted to BIM managers and BIM coordinators that should be able to get involved with BIM? We wanted to create an easy to use, intuitive platform that get all parties on a project working together. BIM creates knowledge silos. Interoperability is difficult, as we all know. How do we get different data formats speaking to one another? Your data needs to be accessible with no proprietary data lock-in. And lastly, every project is different with a different set of requirements. So to give you an overview of the platform and how it actually works, is what we do is we take these different file formats from various tools in the market, and we upload them into the 3D Repo cloud. Now, the interesting thing about our platform is actually how we store your data, right? So we don't just store it as its native file type. What we do is when it comes into 3D Repo, it goes through an optimization process where we strip it down and we put it back together as our own proprietary file type. Now, the reason that we do that is that we want to break the barriers of interoperability and be able to have different formats speaking to one another, right? So after it goes through this optimization process, all of a sudden you can start federating DGN with Revit models, or you could federate a 2018 with a 2021 Revit model, which we know is a big issue in the industry. So that's how we're starting to break the barriers of interoperability. But on top of that, we've built the 3D Repo IO. So this is the actual platform with the different features built into it. So you can do BIM coordinations. So that's issue tracking that follows a standard BCF schema. We do change and clash detection, which is all about instant and visualization of these changes and clashes. We also have developed a tool called Safety Base. So this is a health and safety risk register that's compliant with PAS 1192 Part 6 for managing risk data in a BIM environment. We can also do data validation, GIS integration, and takeoffs. But you can also develop your own platforms on top of 3D Repo as well. One that we've recently developed in conjunction with the Greater London Authority is PlanBase. Essentially what it is, it's an online planning portal where you can have members of the public come in and they can understand the upcoming developments in their communities, and they can ask questions and leave feedback. We've also developed another tool called 3D Send. So what this is all about, it's all about sending 3D models to other people's email addresses. So the great thing about this is that we've also got an embedded viewer built into it. So a good example of this is that, there may be a subcontractor that doesn't have the right software to view models. You can send them a model through 3D Send, they would receive it, and then they can actually open the model and they can navigate around it as well. So that's a free to use tool, and if you're using things like WeTransfer, I'd highly recommend using 3D Send, as it's much more secure as it runs on our servers as well. But on top of that, you can also develop your own custom applications on top of 3D Repo through the likes of Unity or Unreal Engine. Now, where I believe 3D Repo is really interesting and separates ourselves from the market is how we actually leverage our open API, right? So basically, all these different applications you see down here are integrations we've had with different software companies, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create these customized workflows that are based on our clients' requirements. And there's a lot of notable names here. Each integration serves a different purpose, but we're trying to essentially become part of the ecosystem, right? Not working outside of it. And our API allows us to do that. So in terms of data consumption, how do you get data into 3D Repo? So this is one thing that we really pride ourselves on being good at, right? So there's three ways you can do that. The first way is through plugins. So when you're working in Revit or Navisworks, you can publish models directly into our platform from those tools. We also have a Civils 3D plugin that's coming out, I believe at the end of this quarter, that will have the same functionality. You can also directly upload into our platform. So you can do that through the native file formats we take. So we take Revit, DGN, FBX, OBJ, IFC, and BCF. But more of an interesting way of getting it in there, which I believe it's becoming really popular, is the integrations that we have with common data environments. So when you have data coming into your CDE tools, what happens is that will automatically flow into 3D Repo. Obviously, there's a few rule checks that happen as well, but it takes away the double handling of manually having to upload data, right? So you can save a lot of time, especially if you're working on large projects with lots of different revisions constantly coming in. So the main use cases around 3D Repo IO, it's about model management, federating your models, issue tracking, risk mitigation, clash detection, change detection, and data validation. And these are our users, right? So it's very much a mixed bag. We deal with clients, tier 1 contractors, multidisciplinary engineering firms, architects, and we really do get involved in all three stages of a project, whether that's design, construction, or operational. So in terms of our security, so we've got the ISO 9001 and 27001 certifications. We've recently just got our cyber essentials, and everything we do is encrypted and access protected by an API service wrapper. And we have the same encrypted transfer protocol as you would for online banking. So we're a very secure platform, and we have all the correct accreditation to prove so. Now, this is a really important feature around 3D Repo is your hosting options, right? So we host our servers locally here in London through Amazon Web Services. We also have a service that's been spun up in Montreal for a project that we're doing up there. But depending on your client's requirements, if you need private cloud deployment, we can arrange that for you through the likes of AWS, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure. And lastly, if you require on-premise, we can also arrange that for you if you need that level of security. So we give you the options, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be an open platform that allows you to be able to meet your needs. What I'm going to do is now, I'm going to pass it over to Bogdan, and he's going to give you a bit more of a demonstration of 3D Repo. But yeah, if you can get those questions coming in, we'll answer them following on from that.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Bogdan Davidov, Customer Success Manager at 3D Repo. Thank you, Jack, for presenting the background of 3D Repo. So you guys are aware of what the product is, what we aim to do, and what is it exactly we're trying to resolve in the industry and help the users with. Today, I'll show you how 3D Repo works, and I'll try and be as comprehensive as I can, but also try and keep it simple as well, so that you guys don't get overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information exchange with you. If I head over to 3drepo.io, I'll show you exactly how our application works. So the main thing you'll notice is that I didn't have to download and install anything. I just opened up my web browser of choice and then just go and head over to 3drepo.io, which is great. So I think it resolves, in my opinion and my experience, 80% of the problems. Is the fact that how do you get users to start using the application? Often we end up wasting 2 or 3 weeks waiting for our IT departments to check or prove things, and then there are new versions of software come out, and then these also cost substantial amount of money. So it's a lot easier for us, as you can see, as you often do with things like Facebook, WhatsApp. You log in online and you start communication. That's what we want to do for construction. Not reinvent the wheel, but actually make it simple and familiar for you. So as you can see in here, I can have access to as many team spaces, companies, accounts, whoever may be working with me, consultants, and those could have multiple projects as well. So in this case, we'll have a look at Demo 3D Repo, and in this particular case, we'll look at residential block. This seems to be a really good federation to show because it's quite a heavy federation and actually has a lot of use cases everyone relates to. So for instance, what's really interesting is that, as you can see, we store data in the cloud. So what that means is that you can have actually multiple federations or model containers. And these model containers could be either work packages or disciplines, and they also could store multiple revisions. So there are different versions, whoever uploaded it, where it came from, and when as well. You always have a full register. So the good thing is you always have a history. There's a full audit trail as to what happens on your project, who shares information. But most importantly, what's great is that you can upload information to 3D Repo in various file formats. And that's really crucial for coordination, because quite often everybody ends up being isolated for the project because they don't have a license to the software, or they're working in IFC only, or they're working in RVT, Revit, Autodesk files. So all of a sudden, some consultants may feel neglected or only be able to share information with you when you're all together in the same room. So here I'll show you how we can actually, let's say, take all of our different disciplines, interior, furniture, facade. These could well be different file formats, let's say IFC, Revit, DGN, and then we can simply bring them all together into a single federation. Now, here's a real benefit of this. It's not just a communication channel. There are loads of tools out there that really good in terms of being able to assist you with your communication on an everyday basis on your projects. But the number one issue is that what do we do with that data after we have identified whatever it may be, issue or a clash or something. And quite often we create silo data. We might be using an application that is super amazing and does everything it needs, but unless somebody else has money to buy that application, they can't participate on it with you. And this is what we're trying to resolve with 3D Repo. As you can see in here, if I am trying to work on BIM-enabled projects and there's loads of information exchange, that could be communication or even 3D model geometry, I don't have to go and download anything. I just log in, I go to my URL link, and then I can actually view the latest design in 3D before my eyes. I can interact with it however I like as well. I can maybe drop a clip plane. We go for a single clip plane, right? So I can cut across through my building, look at maybe level 1 of the building, see what's going on, what's MEP engineers doing, is the bathroom design complete? Should you have any other questions, you can bring up the BIM card as well. And that's particularly important to many of our users, because right now the models are not getting just geometry rich, they're getting data rich as well. So you can select an element and we'll reveal any data that is included in that model. So that's any BIM data in there, right? So you can use it to help you elevate your understanding of the project, right? You might go and say, well, how many more elements are there on this level? Let's perhaps maybe have a look around and then identify our data and then see where they are. Okay, here we are. We can see there are quite a lot of elements. Nothing I see that is stray, so everything is good and modeled accordingly. So as you can see, within a click of a few buttons, I can pull out some information, maybe enhance my way of visualizing this. But the real benefit is that since I am maybe a BIM novice user, not really prolific at navigating these 3D BIM models, since I finally have my hands on it, I might want to identify an issue or share it with my team. So this is where we start using a set of features. As you can see in here, they are all on the left side panel. And one of the most commonly used one is the issue tracking facility. So as you can see in here, you can go through a list of issues. You can filter for anything in particular. You might go and say, let's have a look at any clash related issues. But notice that, it also filters out information in your 3D view. So in this case, I might go and say, okay, there's a red pin there. There might be something important. There's also a yellow pin here as well. Not so important, maybe medium priority, but I'll click on that and I'll go there anyway. So the next thing you know is that everything is standardized. It's BCF schema. You can bring information in and out using any application you like, right? So you can communicate in 3D Repo, but then bring this information into something else you might want to use or other application. But the good thing is everything is structured. Who's responsible for it. Have the initial markup. And the great thing is everything is logged in here in terms of the actual activity. So if like priorities changed or something changed status, but also comments. And these comments, like I said, is just like using, WhatsApp Messenger or something. It's instant. You can click on things, it will change your view, it will change your camera position. You can see the markup the individual is showing you. But it's not just your, issue tracking tool that is, in my opinion, quite often they end up similar to emailing, where you just see images and text. Well, in here, you can actually see the culprit itself, right? If we're using BIM models to identify these issues, why do we resort to issue tracking facility that just allows us to share images? That's not useful. That doesn't resolve the issue. if I'm the executive architect or the lead designer or somebody who makes an executive decision, I don't want to wait for 2 weeks to get in a meeting room to then go and say, yeah, make that change. We are now working remotely, and being able to access the data is ever so important, because I don't have the ability to sit with my BIM specialist in the same room. I'm sat on the sofa in the comfort of my own house. You know, I log in, I see there is an issue, and I want to quickly resolve it or maybe comment on it. That's where I keep my communication flowing and making my decision in one place. So, you know, when you leverage this information, it could become overwhelming also, right? So we're looking at this 3D information, we're exchanging all of our comments, we're creating issues and things. One of the things that might become quite complicated is trying to either articulate your message or understand it. You might notice that somebody might have color-coded things in this screenshot, so it's better for me to understand. I might want to do the same as well, right? So for instance, I might then go back and maybe open up my groups panel. And the groups panel is really useful because it really helps you to see the data behind the 3D geometry. In this case, I might go and say, well, this junction is complicated. There are lots of layers. I'm a bit confused about what's going on. I might come in here and say, well, let's color code my MEP elements. I also want to see where the structural elements are. Right, so that's where you can start flowing around and understanding that, okay, so we have MEP ductwork and things. We also have some structural elements, you know, structural floors. You notice that, okay, so that's it going through structural floor. There is a wall there. Okay, I understand it. You know, within a click of a few buttons, I was able to elevate my level of understanding. I also might even pick up some other peculiar cases, right? I might go and say, well, look, there's some sort of element that is embedded into this wall. Is it meant to be? If we publish construction drawing for slab edges, this is going to come up. You know, we don't want to cause any issues inside. You can bring up your BIM card once again, you know, select the element. If there's too much data, you go and look at the ones that are most important to you. Go and say, okay, well, that's floors. I see it's any comments, specific type. Okay, might look a bit odd, this data, you know, and that's why you might go and say, hey, guys, I want to create an issue here, and then say, you know, there's a slab inflicting with the wall, and the data also is weird. Why is the element name is not the actual slab thickness? It has some sort of width and height. So this is where you notice that, you know, it's not just you, once again, trying to help deliver the clash results or BIM validations with ease. It's actually you being able to elevate somebody else's ability to identify issues for you, thus, you know, reducing your workload and allowing others to finally understand what BIM is and what's included in that. So that's one of the ways how you can, you know, for instance, mix and match things like issue tracking and groups and stuff. You can also use these groups to maybe fly around the model and help you see some of the custom areas of the model that you're looking at. You know, we might be reviewing basement MEP runs, you know, left wing of the building, you know. You could just quickly jump and fly to that view. We might be having a design coordination meeting here, or had it in the past. I don't really want to try and learn how to navigate that. I just quickly want to jump there. And whilst I'm at it, I also want to understand, you know, where are the cable trays? Where are the soil waste pipes? Okay, I see what's happening. If I want to bring an additional layer of information, I can then go and open up my measurements card. You know, let's do some laser measurements. Let's see how wide this room is. You know, let's see how high this ductwork is. And of course, if any of this is important, I can always add this as comment to my issues or anything, or simply just help me understand whether this needs to be raised as an issue. You know, it's easy to keep raising clashes and issues and thus overwhelm other users, because they end up, you know, as massive reports, and it's just too much. And far too often people neglect half of the issues because they realize actually it's not so important. Well, let the individual who raises that issue understand that as well, whether it's important or not. So this is how you can interact with the model as well. Another really cool and very useful use case is, for instance, okay, let me just jump out of the issue tracking for you here. I'm just going to hide the pins as well, so they don't overwhelm us. And I'll hide these pins as well. Is to use our compare card. So compare card is really useful for tracking changes across revisions. You can use things like instant clash to pick up clashes, but the one I'll show you that's particularly useful is 3D diff. So what that is useful for is picking up any minor changes, geometric ones. You can use smart groups to pick up data changes by creating rules, or you can use 3D to pick up geometric changes. So for instance, let's have a look at MEP. This is a really good use case. This is something that I wish I had used on some of the projects I worked on, but I'm pleased many of our users are starting to use this on theirs. And one of the main feedback that we get is the fact that they say, hey, I just clicked 2 buttons and I was instantly able to see whether it's worth my time reviewing this model or not, right? Quite often you end up with new model revisions, with design changes coming in, and looking at them, if there are, quite often these systems work on object IDs, right? So if you send Revit file and an IFC file, you can't compare the two. Or sometimes people might delete the element and then model something new. It's hard to check where exactly the change happened. In here, we can instantly see how this geometry is changing across revision, and that can be done across any file format. So you can do comparison between the architect's Revit model and subcontractors, maybe IFC model or Navis model or something. But then you notice that you are starting seeing the actual geometric changes to the minor millimeter details. You actually see that the ductwork is shrinking, not just flagging up red saying, hey, it's changed, but what exactly? You might see that, I noticed that there is a bit of junction actually changing also, right? So if we zoom into this model element, we'll notice that actually we're providing some sort of new cable tray scenario here, and it's turning into a T-junction, and it used to be like this, now it's like that. We can quite easily and well compare how much more room do we need for it. It's not just seeing the entire element flag up and tell us that's an issue. So that's a really good use case for you to track geometric changes, and for really everyone on the project to do that. You don't have to wait for your bi-weekly meetings where a BIM coordinator will give you a massive report and you'll just say, wow, that's just too much, right? You can quite easily go and open up, and if you're responsible for a particular area of the model, quickly check. And then instead of waiting for a week, actually make some sort of action out of it, raise it as an issue, let the MEP engineer know about it, or structural engineer, whoever it may be. So that's one of the ways how you can actually leverage the power of communication, data visualization, and actual geometric change visualization. Another really good use case for 3D Repo is the fact that you are no longer stuck in 3D Repo environment only. Like I mentioned earlier, there are lots of cool tools out there, but unfortunately, quite often they also create siloed data, whereby you identify an issue in that environment and you can only resolve it there. In this case, everything that is created in 3D Repo is accessible via APIs, and I'll show you a couple of use cases. One of them may be us perhaps looking at issues, right? So I can quite easily fly around the model. I might get, a clash result from Navisworks somebody might have published, right? I can then see it in 3D Repo. I also might have created an issue in 3D Repo, and I want my team of technicians to go and resolve it. This is where you can use 3D Repo plugins, which once again tap into our API. So I can come into my design authoring tool, let's say in this case it's Revit, and I'm the structural engineer. I can go to my 3D Repo tab and open up my issues panel. We'll head over to our demo residential block federation. And if anything, we can go and say status open, assigned to structural engineer. Let's see what's my responsibility. You'll notice that some of them still outstanding. But then you can actually fly around the model, look at things. You can go and say, okay, cool. Hey, I might not have an MEP model myself, but I noticed that my lead architect actually logged into 3D Repo and said that the MEP engineer provided a pipe and it's in the wrong place, right? You might want to ask for more comments. What are the dimensions and things? But essentially, the good thing is you can visualize anything that's identified in 3D Repo, also in your design authoring tool, as well as resources, right? If there are any attachments to the documents, you can, download your PDF plans, or maybe go to the web links or anything that somebody might be sharing with you. So that's one of the ways you can close that communication loop by being able to, first of all, leverage the fact that everybody can come under one roof, start engaging with things. The good thing is, okay, once you've identified things, how can you actually resolve them? This is where you use plugins. Another really good use case is quite often we're seeing for reporting, and that reporting could be anything: issues, risks, model data, data validation, smart group results, anything like that. It can really easily be linked to 3D Repo. And once again, if you have an application that you're already using and you love it and you prefer it, do make the use of it. Carry on using it. You know, we don't want to make your life hard. We want to make it easier for you. Quite often, people love building their dashboards. People often use tools like Tableau, Power BI. This is Power BI as an example, and we're looking at the same projects and the issue status. And using APIs, I can then go and say, okay, let's refresh it and pull the latest data from 3D Repo. So within a click of a button, we're going to make an API request, pull all of the information back, and then have our dashboard update them. And then we can see what's going on. You know, we can see, whoa, how many clashes are there? 40 clashes on this project. Who identifies them? Who communicates with whom the most? You know, which ones are open? Which ones are closed? Overdue issues. This is a really valuable information because it's structured data. You can leverage it not just to help you resolve the project right here, right now, but also being able to evaluate how it goes over time. You know, which team performs well, which company doesn't do so well, which company you have most issues with, right? But the brilliant thing is, you can then visualize it however you like, and should something require your attention, once again, there's a hyperlink. You just click one button and it takes you right there. And from here onwards, it's my choice, right? I can either, you know, let it load the model viewer and then start commenting on the issue in my issues panel. Alternatively, if I want to, if I don't have a 3D model, and if I don't want to use 3D model, I can perhaps use my, for instance, Kanban board, right? So for instance, I can visualize all of my issues in here. Let's set it to priority, and then go one by one in here also, see if there are any comments, what's the current status. I might go and say this is far more important. This one is not important at all, right? So the way you deal with the data, it's entirely up to you. You can deal with it in 3D Repo. If you want to use something else, you can extract all of the information with a click of a button, accessing our APIs. So that's the real benefit of the platform. So just to finalize it, I'll show you one last feature, actually. I won't go into too much detail, but I'll show you in case many of you are interested in, and that's to do with 4D information. So we noticed that a lot of the BIM information is lately being converted into 4D information, mainly just to help the planners to assess how the project is going to be delivered, but also being able to communicate with people on site as well, the site operatives, because looking at things on drawings don't quite often picture the whole actual context they're going to witness on site. In here, you can make use of our sequences tab, whereby you are able to bring synchro models. So if you export SVM file from synchro, bring it to 3D Repo, you can actually have a playback of your sequence. And this is brilliant. We've seen a real uptake in this, mainly because in the past, people would exchange videos, which wouldn't make much sense. You know, people would just look at static images. In here, they can come in the web browser, look at the sequence, have the activities panel, have everything come and go as it is in the construction sequence, fly around while it's playing. And the most important thing is you'll notice these risk pin or issue pins keep appearing. So they are tagged against the actual sequence. And this is excellent, right? Should there be anything concerning you, like I might look around this model and say, okay, well, something is of an issue at this particular stage and then in this area of the model, you can actually come in and then see what's the risk, right? So this is industry standardized PAS 1192 part 6 health and safety risk tracker called safety based. And then what's really useful is that whether you are a site operative or a designer, all of you can register risks in here, tag it against specific sequences as well, and have communication about it, you know, see how you can resolve it, what's the best way to resolve it, try and mitigate this risk. But what's really good is now you can actually see, well, how does this risk compare between its start date and maybe completion date, you know, what's the actual arrangement on the site, what are we doing then? So once again, it's being able to not just limit this whole 4D sequence to the 4D operatives or maybe the people that know how to model these things, but to actually make sure that the 80% of the team that needs to engage with it is able to do so. This is one of the ways we can leverage it and being able to make use of it in 3D Repo. Okay, so perhaps I will conclude it here because there are far more features that we can cover, far more use cases and workflows. I'll probably leave it to Q&A. If in case anyone has any questions, I can maybe answer your questions now and show you some of the examples and things like that.
Yeah, Bob, we've had some really good questions come through that we should go through. So one of them that would be good to cover is just how does the access control work? How can we give users different levels of access to the models?
Yeah, that's a good one actually. So if we go back to 3D Repo, we have an extensive user management system. So you can come into here and then see which user has access to which team space, which company they work for. You can go on project by project basis as well. So for instance, if we jump into, I don't know, this clinic model, I can see who is an admin of that project. If somebody is not an admin of the project, I might also come in and say, well, I want to share MEP and structural model, maybe, with Joe, right? So, and I want him just to view it. If I want him to start communicating with the team, I can bump it up to commenter. If I want him to start uploading and downloading data, I can push him up to collaborator as well. So yeah, there's very granular layer of permissions across the entire team space, projects and models as well.
Nice. And we've got another question here. So can 3D Repo review drawings / PDFs?
At the moment, what you can do is you can attach actually drawings to your issues. So for instance, if we go back to an example of our demo federation, so at the moment, what you can do is, for instance, I know that there have been some issues that had drawings in there. You can do them as attachments. So you can create an issue and attach your markup or whatever it may be. So that's one of the ways that users do it. Another way you can do it soon in the future is by being able to bring drawings and superimpose them with models. That's one feature that we're currently working on. And if you are interested in that, then stay focused on our newsfeed because we'll keep you posted on the progress of that.
Here's another one. Do models have to be converted to IFC first, or can native models readily be recognized and read?
Yeah, so the way you upload models, it's entirely up to you. I'll show you. So for instance, if we want to upload a model on 3D Repo, we can do it natively through here. So I can select my file, and that file could be anything. That could be RVT, IFC, DGM, FBX, OBJ. So that's one of the benefits, is that you don't have to faff around. You just push the model and upload it directly. Alternatively, if you want to, you can go to, let's say, a specific model view in your design authoring tool. We have a set of plugins for Revit and Navisworks. We also have plugin coming out for Civil 3D soon. And what you will be able to do is just simply go and say, okay, this is my model view. That's what I want to publish. You might even want to go and say, I just want to publish this area of the model, right? I don't want to make the life hard for others by having to load heavy files. I just want to publish this. You go and head over to your actual project, facade, you select it, select level of detail, and boom, it just goes from here. So that's one of the ways you can publish also, using the plugins.
Fantastic, Bogdan. Another one. Can 3D Repo compare metadata changes?
Yeah, so for instance, you'll notice that smart group feature. Those smart groups, the way they're created is actually we are looking at specific rules and things, right? So for instance, if I open up my structural model, I might want to come and say, okay, I want to check for my elements that have base constraint level 002, right? So I can create that as a group. So I open up my groups panel, level 02. I create that as a smart group. I'll paste my filter. So this is my rule I'm checking. You can do any sorts of rules, right? So that's one of the rules that you register, and it's actually saved in our database. You can color code them. There are some other ones, as you can see in here. The good thing is they automatically update across revisions. So if you upload a new model and then suddenly half of the floors are missing, you'll get a different object count. So you'll see the results instantly there. If you want to, a lot of our users pull this information into any other application like Excel or Power BI and then track changes there across their own databases and things. So you can track changes across revisions. Like I said, via APIs, you can tap into any information, BIM data or every revision count in 3D Repo.
I've got another really good question here, Bogdan. So how does 3D Repo track the changes of a particular component / part between different versions and different models? For example, PDMS, Revit, Tekla, but has the same component has the component the exact same name. So basically tracking the changes geometrically.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things I showed you is, for instance, if we look at the MEP model, that's a really good use case. If you are working across a multitude of file formats, how can you check that the data still exists there? Is by creating a rule that looks for that data. If I, for instance, want to look at, let's say, this ductwork, and I want to make sure that the category duct exists, I want to create my rule in here. I do it as a smart group, so I paste my filter. I can even go more granularly if I want to make sure that the actual element family name is rectangular duct, right? So I can also paste that as well. So I'm saying I want to make sure that category name is a duct and the family name is rectangular duct. So these are the rules that I create, which then go and query the database. And should there be a match, it will give me a result that I can access and visualize in 3D Repo using smart groups, color coding. Alternatively, what I can do is I can also query it on API level and check about my databases if I have any of those. But the great thing is, like I pointed out earlier, is that this data may well be missing quite often. So if you go to a different file format and you suddenly lose that data, the result of the group will be null, right? You might go and say, oh, well, that's 0. That's interesting. That also tells you that most likely the element ID has changed. So this is where you make use of tools like 3D Diff. You can then go and say, well, check between the two revisions. You know, I knew that there was a ductwork here, for instance, right? And all of a sudden it's gone, right? When I use my group, it doesn't show me any results. But if I check the geometries between the two, I can then go and say, oh, actually, it's still there, you know, because we have a new file format. We're actually able to see and capture, make sure that it's still present there, notice where the change has happened. And then you can go ahead and open up the information of that element and then see how they name it in this new file format. So in essence, yes, you're able to capture it on the data level and the geometric level. And there are a number of ways you can do that. If you want to deep dive into it and test it for yourself, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We'll definitely show you how to do it best.
Yeah, so I think just the last question that we have on here, we just said, is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded, and then we'll get it sent out tomorrow, I believe. But look, I think that's maybe all the questions that we actually want to run through today, and we'll give you guys a little bit of time back. But yeah, like Bogdan said, if you guys have any questions or queries at all, please do just touch base with us at sales@3drepo.org, and we'll be more than happy to have a catch up with you. But other than that, yeah, thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, and we hope to hear from you very soon.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the week.